All right, diving in. Today, we're going to explore how powerful our subconscious minds can be, how they shape our reality. We're taking all this from an audio called How to Reset Your Internal Programs to Attract What You Want, with law of attraction exercises. But don't worry, this is about way more than just thinking positive.
It really is fascinating, like this hidden world inside us influencing so much.
Totally. And this audio, it uses this awesome analogy of a thermostat, like how it keeps your house at a certain temperature.
Right, you set it and forget it.
Exactly. And our subconscious minds, they're kind of like that, but for like everything in our lives.
Yeah, it's like programmed with set points, not just for temperature though, but for relationships, money, even how we see ourselves.
Okay, wow. So that makes me wonder, are these set points like helping me or are they holding me back?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is. But before we even get there, how do these programs even get in there in the first place?
Childhood, that's the key. Those first 7 years, super important. The audio talks about how our brains are in this, what's it called, theta state a lot then, like a sponge, soaking everything up.
So all those messages we hear growing up about success, love, all that, they're still kind of running in the background.
They are. It's wild, right?
That's kind of crazy. But so does that mean we're stuck with whatever we picked up as kids?
Well, not always, but the problem is most of the time we're not even aware of these programs. They just kind of run in the background,
Yeah.
affecting our thoughts and actions without us realizing it. It's like having an app on your phone, just draining your battery without you knowing.
Okay, that's a great way to put it. So how do we even know what these beliefs are? The audio, it mentions muscle testing. Have you ever messed around with that?
Oh yeah, muscle testing is really interesting. It's all about the connection between our minds and bodies, like how our bodies can actually reveal these hidden beliefs.
No.
Yeah, the audio talks about this sway test. You stand up, focus on a belief, and then you see which way your body leans. If you lean forward, that means you agree with it. Backward, it's resistance.
That's so cool. I've actually tried that before, and it can be weirdly accurate. But how does that even work? Is it like magic or something?
Not magic, but it's definitely tapping into a deeper level of awareness. Like our bodies have their own wisdom. Sometimes they know things before our conscious minds do. Some people use muscle testing for all sorts of things like figuring out food sensitivities or even making decisions.
Wow. So let's say we've done some of that, some exploring, and we've found some of these beliefs that are holding us back. Then how do we actually reprogram the subconscious mind? How do we change those beliefs?
Well, the audio, it talks about two main approaches. The first one uses what we were just talking about, that theta state, like when you're falling asleep. Your mind's more open then.
Ah, okay. So it's like downloading updates when your computer's asleep.
Exactly. So listening to affirmations or guided meditations before bed, things like that.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
And then the second approach is more about, well, conscious effort. It's the idea of doing something new over and over. Even if it feels weird at first, like learning a language or an instrument, the more you do it, the more natural it becomes.
So if I want to believe I'm more confident, it's not enough to just say it. I got to actually act confidently too.
Yeah, it's kind of like fake it till you make it. Or maybe more like act until you believe it.
I like that. Act until you believe it.
The more you align your actions with the belief you want, the more your subconscious starts to get it.
That makes sense. But rewiring your brain, that sounds like a pretty big project. How do we even know if it's working? And what happens if we manage to reprogram these beliefs?
Oh, that's when things get really interesting.
We're back. And, last time things got pretty deep. Our subconscious minds are basically operating systems running these programs that impact our whole lives.
And we were talking about how those programs, those beliefs, they're not set in stone. We can actually change them.
Exactly. But how do we even know if our subconscious is on our side? What happens when we start changing those beliefs?
That's where things get really interesting. This audio talks about, attracts like, but it's not like some mystical thing. It's more about how we see and interact with the world, how that changes.
Okay, so not like wishing for $1 million and it just appearing.
Not quite. It's more like, imagine you're reading the newspaper, right? Your subconscious is like this filter. It's highlighting the stuff that confirms what you already believe. So if you believe in scarcity, you'll probably notice those stories about economic hardship and lack.
But if you believe in abundance, you might focus on the stories about success or opportunities. It's like the same newspaper, but you're seeing something totally different.
Exactly. The world's the same, but your perception of it changes. And that changes your actions, the people you attract, even the opportunities you see.
Oh, that's kind of like the placebo effect, right? People experience real changes just because they believe they're getting some powerful treatment. It's like The power of belief, in action.
Absolutely. Our beliefs shape our reality. And when our subconscious beliefs and our conscious desires, when those align, that's when things really start to shift.
So it's not just positive thinking, it's more about getting our inner world to match the outer world we want.
And something that's really important to remember, the audio, it emphasizes that the subconscious mind, it's often way ahead of our conscious awareness.
Oh, so it's like it already knows things before we do.
It's like this brilliant strategist working behind the scenes. Our conscious mind that sets the goals, but the subconscious that figures out how to get there.
That's amazing. But also kind of freaky. Like, do we even have control?
Think of it as like a partnership. We give the direction, the subconscious figures out the route. But that means we got to be careful about the instructions we're giving it. What beliefs are we feeding it?
So if we're constantly negative and doubting ourselves, it'll just keep leading us down that path.
Exactly. But if we feed it these positive, empowering beliefs, that's where it'll take us. It's working out. The more you practice aligning your thoughts and actions with the reality you want, the stronger those connections get in your brain.
Oh, that reminds me of that quote, what you think you become. It's kind of hitting different now. But this whole inner work thing, it sounds like a lot. Do you have an example of how this could play out in someone's life?
Yeah, sure. Imagine someone who's always had trouble with public speaking. Deep down, they believe they're just not good at it. So they might avoid those opportunities, get super nervous, focus on everything that could go wrong.
So they're kind of stuck in this self-sabotage loop.
Exactly. But what if they started changing those beliefs on purpose? Like they start listening to affirmations about being confident, they visualize themselves giving a great presentation, and they start looking for chances to practice.
And even when they're nervous, they choose to see that as excitement instead of fear.
Right. It's about changing that inner voice and matching your actions with the belief you want to build. And if they're consistent, their subconscious mind, it starts to catch on. They might start getting positive feedback, feeling more comfortable in front of people, and eventually, public speaking, it's not so scary anymore.
Wow, that's a really great example. It's not just thinking positive, it's about putting in the work that matches those thoughts.
And it takes time, but the more we reinforce these new beliefs and behaviors, the more our subconscious takes over and starts working for us, not against us.
It's powerful stuff. This is making me want to really look at my own limiting beliefs.
Uh-huh.
But we've covered a lot here. What's next on our deep dive into the subconscious? Welcome back to our deep dive. We've been exploring this whole world of the subconscious mind, how it shapes our lives.
And it's not just about, positive thinking, but about aligning our beliefs with what we want and actually taking action.
Yeah. We even heard that example of someone, changing their beliefs about public speaking. But how do we actually do that reprogramming?
Well, the audio, it gives us some pretty clear techniques. Remember that theta state we were talking about? Like that relaxed feeling when you're drifting off to sleep?
Yeah, like a gateway to the subconscious.
Exactly. So the audio, it suggests using things like affirmations, visualizations, or even subliminal messages during that time. Your conscious mind, it's kind of checking out, so your subconscious is more open.
So I could literally fall asleep to affirmations about being more confident or, whatever I'm trying to change.
Exactly. The key is to keep those messages positive, specific, and in the present tense. So instead of, I want to be more confident, you'd say, I am confident.
It's like giving your subconscious operating system a software update.
Exactly. And then the other technique, it's more about taking action, like consciously repeating new behaviors, even if they feel a little uncomfortable at first.
Like learning a new skill. But can you give us an example of what that might look like?
Sure. Let's say you want to overcome a fear of failure. Instead of avoiding challenges, you actually start putting yourself in those situations, the ones where you might not succeed.
So signing up for that pottery class, even though you're terrible at art.
Exactly. Each time you face that fear, you're showing your subconscious that it's not actually that scary.
Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
But changing those old patterns, it sounds like it takes time. Where do we even begin?
The audio says, start small. Pick one or two beliefs you really want to work on. Don't try to do everything at once.
Okay, so pick one thing, be consistent with the new thoughts and actions.
Exactly. It's like building a muscle. You wouldn't, bench press 200 pounds your first day at the gym. Start small, gradually increase.
That's a great way to put it. So patience is key here. But how do we stay motivated when we're not seeing those big changes right away?
Pay attention to the little things, those small shifts in how you think, how you feel, how you react. Notice how you're responding differently to situations that used to trigger those old beliefs.
So maybe I'm not like suddenly fearless overnight, but I notice I'm not completely freaking out like I used to. That's progress.
Exactly. Celebrate those small wins. They show that your efforts are working. And as you keep going, keep reinforcing those new beliefs, your subconscious will start to take over. It's like planting a seed. You nurture it, give it time, and eventually it blossoms.
Huh. This has been so eye-opening, and it feels like we've only just scratched the surface of what's possible, with the subconscious.
It really is an amazing thing. The more we explore it, the more we realize how much power we have to shape our own lives.
That's powerful stuff. So as we wrap this up, what's the one thing you want our listener to take away?
You are not your thoughts. You have the power to choose which ones you believe, which ones you let go of, and if you put in the effort, you can reprogram your mind to support you, help you create the life you want.
That's such an important reminder. Thank you for diving deep with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listener, remember, change starts from within. What one small step can you take today to start shifting a belief that's holding you back? Even a tiny action can make a difference. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.